love you more.
It is my pleasure to introduce our next speaker for the class of 2019. Eric Swanson will now share his commencement remarks.
We were first taught to add numbers in kindergarten. Bins full of little blue cubes and colored flashcards were placed on our desks and tables as we tried for the first time to form an abstract connection between physical quantities and numerical symbols. This common experience, however simple, largely mirrors our experience every time we need to learn something new. We cannot learn except by analogy, and so the jumping off point for any new subject must be a basis in physical observations. Think of any abstract concept you've ever learned for the first time, and you'll probably find that this is true to some level. We learn about atoms and molecules by comparing them to little balls. We learn about DNA by comparing it to written instructions. Even writing stories we learned about by comparing big and small narratives to watermelons and seeds. But the story doesn't stop with that initial analogy. It propagates through everything we build on top of those fundamental concepts. And although we need those simple foundations to start learning, we soon find that they are unstable platforms for knowledge if we want to understand things on a deeper level. Atoms and molecules don't really behave like little balls most of the time. The mechanisms of DNA are far more complicated than reading a set of instructions. And as I've learned, even when composing this speech, there's a lot more to good writing than making it a seed story. We reach a point where we must transcend these flawed foundational analogies if we wish to explore more deeply into a subject. And I mention this sort of building up and breaking down of knowledge because I believe it is essential not only to our academic experience when beginning a subject, but to our broader experience with learning and life as a whole. I would like to invite you all to try and remember how you felt when you first entered the high school as a freshman, or even the middle school as a sixth grader, or the WHBI as a fourth grader. On one hand, those experiences were accompanied with a vast sense of awe, wondering what the next few years would be like. But on the other hand, each time we have entered these buildings, we've done so with preconceptions, with a sense that we have a general idea of what's going on and how things work, that is largely based upon our past experience. And I think that one of the most transformative experiences of our journey through the Queensbury schools has been in letting those preconceptions go. No freshman, no matter how experienced and wise, can tell you how it feels to be a senior walking across this stage. Nor could any of us claim that middle school didn't change us significantly between 6th and 8th grade. And even the 2 years at the WHBI delivered a new perspective to us as 10 and 11-year-olds about growing up. The important thing to realize about this kind of learning is that it is cyclic. We never stop being wrong. We just become less wrong over time by building up and breaking down our false knowledge. One of the clearest examples of this cycle of learning and unlearning can be found in the way we are taught mathematics, from kindergarten all the way up through high school. Shortly after we're taught addition, subtraction comes along, and we're told the lie that you cannot subtract a bigger number from a smaller one, until we learn about negative numbers. In multiplication and division, we're told that you cannot divide a number by something if it doesn't go unevenly, until we learn about fractions and decimals. We learn about square roots and are told the lie that you can't take the square root of a negative number, until we learn about imaginary numbers. And as we go into higher math courses, we're all told all sorts of lies about calculus and vectors and functions, because at that level, those lies are the only way we can learn anything. Because if I tried to teach a kindergartner addition by explaining to them that addition is a binary operation on the set of complex numbers, which is defined by an abelian non-cyclic group, identity, so on and so forth, I would get blank stares and teach them far less than a simple lie about the existence of numbers outside the ones they are familiar with. But somehow, we've moved past these untruths and inaccuracies. We've discovered time and again that the moment when we think we have it all figured out is most often the moment when everything is rearranged and we have to figure it all out again. And time and again, we emerge from this process smarter, more experienced, ready to face the ever greater challenges that will certainly cross our paths. And so I invite you to think about the word graduation and what it really means. This is not an ending, as many of us have come to see it, but rather another step on our journey towards understanding. The definition of the verb to graduate is not to complete, but to change, gradually, step by step. And the only way to elicit such change in ourselves is to constantly admit that we are wrong, to accept lesser failure as a path to greater success, to reject the so-called truths we cling to so strongly in favor of a deeper understanding of the world around us. The Queensbury School District mission statement is to empower all students to be lifelong learners, inspired to pursue their dreams and contribute to the global community. Lifelong learners. It is precisely this cycle of knowledge which empowers us to fulfill this role, and if there is one thing to be taken forth from this graduation, let it be this. Let us not allow our knowledge to stagnate. Let us be accepting of change, even if it breaks down the things we are familiar with, because it is only through this kind of change that we can truly learn. Whether it be a totally new concept, a challenge to existing beliefs, or the constantly shifting, labyrinthian walls of the Legacy 2020 building project, let us allow change to infiltrate our lives so we can rework our foundations and strive ever towards the unattainable ideal of truth. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. As Vice President of the National Honor Society, I am honored to introduce our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Douglas Huntley.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome, moms, dads, grandparents, relatives, friends, faculty, staff, community members, and the Queensbury Union Free School District Board of Education members to the commencement exercises for the class of 2019. This evening, the class of 2019 will receive their diplomas, a mark of many years of hard work and dedication. These years have been full of countless academic lessons. Some were easy, some were more challenging. But also woven into your time here at Queensbury have been life lessons, lessons which I think are most important. Life lessons are often not very far away. They occur every day. They're right in plain sight. All you have to do is recognize them. My message this evening is not complex at all, and it starts with a personal story. I ride. No, I don't ride a Harley or a Yamaha or a Honda. I don't ride one of those bikes that you see in the Americade. My bike is one that you have to pedal to get anywhere. I like riding a bike because I get a pretty good workout, and in Queensbury and Warren County, the scenery is world class. Last weekend, I was on a ride with a friend of mine named Lee and his friend, Kevin, who I'd never met before. If you recall, last Saturday was a beautiful day, a great day for a ride. Toward the end of the ride, we were climbing a hill coming back into Queensbury, and I could feel my bike start to wobble a little bit. And the farther up the hill we went, the more wobbling occurred. So first I looked at the road conditions to see if that caused the wobbling, and no, the road was fine. I checked the gears, no problem. Front tire, not a problem. Brakes were fine. And then I looked at the back tire, and that was it. Flat as a pancake. I'd never had a flat before. So of course my problem now became Lee and Kevin's problem, and it caused all of us to stop. Lee, who was the most experienced of the three of us, immediately went into mechanic repairman mode and began to take the back tire off. Kevin quickly opened his toolkit and had his air pump out. Fortunately for me, I had a spare tube. Unfortunately, the tube was for a 23-inch tire, and my tire was 25 inches. Kevin's spare happened to be my size, so he gave it to me, and in no time, Lee had replaced my useless tire with Kevin's only spare. I thanked both of them profusely, and when I tried to reimburse them for their know-how, labor, Kevin's only spare, they each said no. In fact, Kevin said, who, remember, I had never even met before that ride, he said, look, several years ago, the same thing happened to me. I was riding alone around Brant Lake when I had a breakdown and I couldn't fix it. Along came another rider who, to this day, I still don't know. He stopped, fixed what I couldn't, and got me on my way. As I tried to pay him, he hopped on his bike, and over his shoulder he said, "Pay it forward." And off he went. Pay it forward, rather than receive a proper award or reward for his work that he did for Kevin. Pay it forward. So Kevin actually was quite delighted with my dilemma. He said, "This is great. Now I get to pay it forward, and it's your turn to pay it forward next." In a way, that anonymous rider who helped Kevin several years ago had a huge and positive impact on my life last Saturday. To me, Lee and Kevin's pay it forward was a really big deal. I needed help, and they gave it to me. The act of their kindness was really important and highly valuable to me. Now, Lee and Kevin's act of kindness didn't change the world, and until now, nobody even knew what happened. But their act of kindness changed my world. They weren't recognized in the local paper. They didn't get a plaque. They didn't even get a handshake because our hands were greasy and oily. But they made a difference for me, and for them, that was enough. And that's what makes Pay It Forward so great. There are many examples of Pay It Forward moments that belong to the class of 2019. I'd like to share a few. Take Ethan Snowball, for example. On the onset of his junior year and continuing through the entire end of his senior year, Ethan volunteered countless hours at Warren County Historical Society and in the Warren County Historian's Office. There, Ethan assisted staff with research, writing, publishing projects, exhibits involving local history of Warren County. Why did Ethan do all of these things? Because he loves history, but more importantly, he loves to help. And how about Madison Ferrone? Madison volunteered at Glens Falls Hospital every Wednesday for at least 2 hours and often more from 2015 to 2019, 4 years. Madison worked with doctors, nurses, PAs, and many others. When speaking to the nurses in the hospital, they could not say enough kind and wonderful things about Madison's service. They said Madison made a big difference to Glens Falls Hospital. We're really going to miss her. And then we have Lauren Bauer. Lauren's been volunteering in Mrs. Higley's self-contained special education class at the Barton Intermediate School. Lauren has dedicated time almost every day for the past two years. Any free time that Lauren had, it seemed she was with Mrs. Higley's students. And Lauren has made such a big impact with those students. Mrs. Higley said, "At the end of the year, my students asked Lauren, 'Do you really need to leave and go off to college?' In her eyes, she was already a teacher, and their hope was that she would stay and return to them in the fall." Ethan, Madison, and Lauren represent how so many of the class of 2019 have already learned to pay it forward, with no expectation of attention or reward for their commitments. They just want to do the right thing. So my message to the class of 2019, as I mentioned earlier, is quite simple. It's not a new concept by any means, and that's what makes it so doable, and that's what makes it so powerful. Find your pay it forward moments. They're all around you. They're around you now, and they'll be around you when you enter into the world of work, join the military, go to university or college. You've not lived today until you've done something for someone who can never repay you. Small acts of kindness, when multiplied by many people, can transform the world. New opportunities to pay it forward begin this evening for the class of 2019. Make them special, make them count, leave your mark. Congratulations, class of 2019.
As the class of 2019 celebrates commencement, we'd like to acknowledge one more person. I am honored tonight to speak on behalf of the class of 19 as I introduce Mrs. Stephanie Knoop as our graduation speaker. Mrs. Knoop, who you may also know as Miss Hagney,